Hello. In this video, we're going to cover the annual update full version, where we're going to bring in SPI, THP, RIS, and LAN class, deal with cross-layer commonality, updating multiple layer attribute information, and generally just getting a standard workflow for the annual update. Um, it's going to be a little bit trickier than what we've seen so far because of cross-layer commonality on multiple layers and just the need to kind of obey certain rules with water protection. So this is just going to be an overview. I'm going to show one unit that's outside of your training area, just to the east. You can see the training area over here. And so I'm just going to focus on this unit. Technically, you might end up working outside of the training area depending on how much practice we put in. But let's just look at this unit. I'm just going to go through it. That way we can discuss the rules as we go. So, as with the last annual update practice, we need to focus on this boundary. In this case, we already have kind of the water protection. We have these two adjacent regen units. So this boundary and this boundary are pretty much good already. I'm going to just go into edit mode here. I think we'll give some life to the edge here. Looks like I've got something out of common. Interesting. Not sure why that wasn't in common there, but I'm just going to get this regen back in common with the SPI THP RIS here. And maybe I'll suck this corner up a little bit. Everything else looks okay here. Let me pull this down just a little bit. I don't have all of the that was silly. I don't have all of the different ortho years on this computer at the moment, so I'm just using the Google imagery. But along these lines, it'd probably be good to check multiple years just to double check that they did in fact get back in here as tight as I'm making this boundary. But just want to give some life to it, match the extent that they worked on. This area is kind of a troubling one because it looks like they cut all the way up to the creek. If you look at that boundary, so I'm thinking we're going to need to move that creek back, or stream I should probably say. This road looks like it's not really on, so let's center that up. And you will need to set up your thematics and follow the manual a little bit here to get this to look the way that I have it. So first we're just going to adjust this boundary. I'm going to leave this. It looks like what we typically do in an area like this is when there's two different regen units sharing a landing, we will just split that landing proportionally to the different regen units. So if there's a third one or a fourth, we would try to quarter that landing there, but we'll just split that in half for now. Save. Kind of curious about this little bit here. Almost looks like it belongs to this unit, but it doesn't look like they got in there, so I'm just going to say that they didn't. I'm going to adjust this. My regen color for N1 equal to 1 is almost exactly the same to my land class. I'll change my land class thematics. 25%, might just change that to, I don't know, 20 will probably make it look different enough. Actually, it looks like I have some out of range. So I have 50 of these out of range, so I need to make sure I add those back in. Okay, cool. Looks good. Okay, so let's deal with this little corner. The water protection. What I'm going to do first, well, I'm going to deal with this land class. I'm going to just push this down a bit. This is all just M here, so we don't really have to worry about that being too close. Push that down. This is all in common. Sometimes a trick that you can do, in this case we have SPI-THP-RIS and the land class in this road, and then of course we have the land class on this side, no SPI-THP-RIS. So technically what I could do is hold shift to break commonality if I wanted to move this SPI-THP-RIS, which I do. I want to move it down here a little bit just to get it away from this clear cut. But it's in common with this road, so there's a couple different things you can do, but what I'm going to do is kind of cheating. I'm just going to hold shift and break the commonality with the road. That way, when I come back, I can just move, see how I'm kind of going between SPI-THP-RIS and land class? Because they're in common, it doesn't really matter. I want to move land class or I want to move SPI-THP-RIS. I can just use either of them because it's going to move. So now I'm going to move the stream, land class, and SPI-THP-RIS. I'm going to move all of those down to, well, I can't move it to this one. If I moved it to this vertice, I'd have a stacked vert, so temporarily I'm just going to set that there. And I know I'm going to pull this back to here, so why don't we just delete this vertice from land class holding shift. Again, there's multiple ways to do this, whatever way makes you feel like you have enough control, and then I'm going to delete this one. So now you can see this land class and this land class are back in common, and I can just edit geographic vertex move from here to grab that, and I wouldn't, stack a vert there. So a lot of saving and editing going on here just to make small moves, but that's what you got to do. Edit geographic vertex move. Now I'm going to pull this boundary back to match like it should. And maybe I'll just move this one back a little bit there. Okay. Now this one's all coming all the way down to the road here. You know what? It comes all the way down to the road here too. Sometimes it's good to just flicker to see what's really going on, or you can use draft mode to take the fill styles away. This takes a couple more seconds. There's a lot going on in the background to change all of those, but yeah, so that looks pretty good. Even though this is a straight line here, well, you know what, I'm going to pull this here. You can edit in this mode too, of course. You can see me doing that right now. So maybe that was a little bit tight there. Let's move that out just a little bit. Since we're up against that stream, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt here. Okay, cool. Turning draft mode off. And save those edits. So I'm going pretty quickly here. You might want to give it a little bit more attention than I just did, but so we moved this stream, and we did that because they cut all the way down here, and they're going to have at least 30 feet. They should have 50, so I'm going to put a buffer on here at 30. I don't think I have a buffer layer. Send that to buffer. So there's your minimum of 30, which we're close to it right there. So what's good to do is we'll just buffer this guy too. 30, tab B to get buffer. Okay. So in that case, we're just going to kind of split the difference here with the stream. I'm going to just kind of slide this up just a little bit. We're just kind of making this look a little bit prettier. to class 3, there's no channel that we can see using the orthos, but we can assume, based on the fact that these are professional foresters, that they came out here and measured everything properly and did their cuts according to law. So they're doing at least 30 feet. We hope that they're doing more like 50 is what our rules are, but here we've got them back. Yeah, and this I'm not going to touch, even though it looks like maybe it would make more sense for that to have a little bend in it right there, but that's okay. Okay, I'm going to delete these buffers, hit a geographic delete, but now we move this stream. So now we have to check the stream, because those always have a 50-foot buffer. If we're adding protection to them, we're going to put a 50-foot buffer in, unless there's imprint. So regen is showing imprint, we're breaking the 50-foot rule in some cases right here, because we're just saying, well, they would have pushed that off. Oh, I probably should have checked this. I'm going to put a 30-footer on there just to make sure that they at least got 30, which they barely did. Barely did. It's hard to see. Typically buffers will have kind of like a pink color on there. We can see what's going on a little better. Yeah, it's got 30. I mean, that's tough to see. I think I'm going to pull this back. Let's put a 50-foot buffer on here too. Oops. Where'd my buffer go? What the heck? Oh, I'm already on buffer. There we go. Buffer, 50, buffer. Okay, so there's 50. Let's just go ahead and move this one 50 feet off. And you know, I'm even going to grab the buffer, assuming that they did that perfectly right there. Okay, don't need this buffers anymore. This buffer is not useful anymore because we just moved the stream again. Edit geographic buffer. Now we're going to put that 50-foot buffer on there. And what we need to do here is manage this land class. So I'm kind of just going with what I've touched last. For me, that's easier because if I wanted, like, I know I'm going back to this regen unit to do more work, but if I forget to do this land class, that's a big deal. So I'm, you know, I kind of am ignoring what I originally started off doing with this regen unit, and I'm just going to just deal with what I'm working on at the moment, so I don't forget it. Technically, you could save this and come back and deal with the water protection after you get the regen unit looking good. I like to just kind of keep with what I'm working on. That way, I don't forget to come back. And so, dealing with buffers on streams, basically you need to do it by hand, adding points along the buffer polygon just to make sure that we don't use the buffer polygon. I need to add a couple in here because this is a good example right here. This buffer polygon, the way that the buffer algorithm works, it threw 2 points right there. We don't need to add 2 points right there. We're just going to add 1. Yep, we're going to pull this back to add and add another one there. Wow, this all needs to be kind of pulled back down. So sometimes this happens and you get kind of pulled off. There's no reason this land class needs to be protected this far out. Since I'm here, I can see that that's not right. That's another foot or two there. This one, they're kind of just meeting back up with the road, which makes sense. So I'm going to call that good. So now we've got the water protection back to where it needs to be. We moved the stream, so that's at legal distance from the SPI THP RIS and regen. And I'm going to delete this. So that looks good. I mean, I think that it's obvious they probably have a stream channel up in here, but without knowing that, I'm not going to just, change every vert on a stream for no reason. Okay, so now we're back to dealing with the regen unit. And let's check the SPI THP RIS. Feature info. Okay. So we've got the clear cut information here and here. Label, as I pointed out in the manual, is a concatenation of C1, or let me see here, label, so C2, C1, and C6. So this is procedurally done using the expression editor at the end typically, but what's happened now is we're looking at this. We see that they have a Lopez Celli as a part of this unit. 1434, C6 is the unit number. So this is the child to this parent. That all looks good. The labels are good. See link in selections, Lopez or just Celli. We do not have link in there. But what I do see here is this large retention island. So I'm going to view area, Alt VA, and I'm going to measure this guy. Enter. So we've got 0.61 acres, which is over the 0.5 acre rule that we follow for wildlife habitat or just selection areas. So I need to pull that out. So there's a couple different ways we can do this. Because we're splitting two SPI THP RIS and regen, we need to delete the regen because this is not part of the regen unit. They did not cut in here. And SPI THP RIS we need to call a Celli, kind of similar to how this is called a Lopez Celli. This just needs to be a Celli. So typically you would probably think, oh, let's just come up to the split feature, we'll split that feature, and then maybe we'll split it again using the other feature. I would save a step by using the buffer as a temporary polygon, edit geographic add. I'm going to just go to Flickr so I can see this really well. Yes, I know I'm zoomed in really far, so just be cognizant of not adding 10,000 verts. But we are trying to maintain a specific acreage here, so it is important to get this pretty detailed. And that looks good, so enter. And there's our buffer. Now, not sure if you've done this yet, probably, hopefully, edit geographic split overlay. Actually, you know what? Edit geographic split multiple overlay. And here we can just choose regen SPI THP RIS. I'm going to leave all these the same, delete original features, of course. Hit OK. And just like that, it's really quick. Well, let's delete the buffer. Don't need that anymore. Let's see what happened. So now we have a little chunk of regen, which we don't need. Edit geographic delete. And we have our SPI THP RIS. Problem is now this has the same attribute information as the SPI THP RIS for the actual regen unit. So this is not a part of that anymore, so we need to call this a Celli. So we're going to change this to SELE, and then it's not an alt clear cut, so we need to take this, remove that, SELE, and we don't need link, remove that. And all this looks good here, so we'll save that. And if there was multiples, you would union the Cellis together. If there was multiple Lopez Cellis, you would union the Lopez Cellis together. But in this case, we have 3 different silviculture types, so those are all going to be separate. So now you can see we have a parent with 2 children, a Celli and a Lopez Celli. Okay, so we're almost done. SPI THP RIS is done. I'm going to call this boundary good. I know this is under half an acre. Be probably smart to measure that. So last step, regen, we're changing N3 to 3. save, you'll see the color change because of the way you set up the thematics. Lastly, this is not an M land class type anymore. This is a R. So I'm going to change that to R for regen. Save. Okay, so there we go. That is that. Oop, that's not that. What is this? Oop, I forgot to cut out land class. So this is not going to be our land class in here. So that's my mistake. I'm going to just cheat and use the draw scissors tool here. Common, common, no, yes. I'm going to grab this last one. Is that going to work? Let's see. It's closed. Yep, that worked. So I just need to close that. So this is not going to be R. This is going to be M. And why is it M? Well, it's just mixed, but it's a protection type. We don't know why it's protected, so we're just going to call it unknown, M unknown. So all of your little cellies are going to be M unknown. Land class already has a thematic for that, so you can see that change. So that's pretty much, I don't know, a standard sort of update. Some of them aren't going to have this celly. You do need to remember to put that M unknown in there. You could even see that I almost forgot. It's M with unknown protection, where this one is M with W3 protection, water protection. All cellies get unknown protection, just to show that it does have some protection. You can even see here, this guy's already got one. Okay, so that is about 22 minutes of going through one particular unit, doing a pretty good job, making sure all the attributes are correct afterwards. And let's just go ahead and look at this. Okay, so here's your training area. You've got quite a few in here. We can even figure that out. Select geographic inside region. You're going to be dealing with only regen that are n1 equal to 1. Oop, that's n1, sorry, n3 equal to 1. So you've got 13 units to go through. Some will take longer than others, but you can see even with me going pretty quick, that's 22 minutes or so just to get one done. So call it 20 minutes times 13. Should take you quite a while. A lot of stream work. Don't forget, after you move a stream, if it has water protection, you need to deal with that land class associated to the stream. So focus on these red regen units that you set up. Deal with all the protections. Don't hesitate to reach out to who is training you. And take your time, do a good job, be detailed, and speed here is just really not important. It shouldn't take you 5 days to get through this. It should at least take a day. And just pay close attention to your vertex spacing. You know, most of these units have been done correctly, so you can always check another unit to see how many verts are on that unit. And yeah, we'll just do a good job. All right, thanks.